Hello and welcome. Shawn, that is beautiful. Hello and welcome to another episode of Disrupt Your Now. This is the show for entrepreneurs who are sick and tired of checking off the boxes and you want to create your own boxes. Look, y'all, you may have seen Shawn in my show about 2 or 3 years ago, but if you have, whether you have or not, you are in for a treat tonight because Shawn is definitely a person who has created his own check boxes. He has gone through crap that none of us can even imagine. And I'm going to let him tell his story, but I'm going to preface it by Shawn spent 15 years in prison for armed robbery. So if he can do it, if he can pull himself up by his bootstraps and not only change his life, but help change other people's lives, you can do it too. Welcome to the show, Shawn.
Hey, thank you.
I'm
Hey,
so
Lisa.
happy to have you back. Oh, and I forgot to tell y'all that Shawn is also one of the 50 entrepreneurs in my book,
Absolutely,
Disrupt Your
absolutely. We'll definitely be getting around to book writing
Now. Yeah.
here shortly. Thank you for that lovely and warm introduction, Lisa. We have, as I said in the post earlier today, uh, you and Ryan were the first two people on our podcast as far
Mhm.
as it being a video podcast. And
Yeah.
from there, we nurtured that relationship between us and collaborated and have done and went on to do some great things together and separately. So thank you for that camaraderie. I will
Oh, you're
start.
welcome. And it's so fun though, looking back,
Yeah,
how far you've come, how far the team has come, how far our
right.
friendship has come. So
Yes,
that really
yes.
means a lot to me. For people, for the audience who's listening who are not familiar with you, tell them about your background and how you got to where you are.
Oh wow. So we don't have that much time,
No,
but I will try to do a
that's just the
nutshell
high
for you
level
guys.
view.
I will try to do something for you guys to let you know exactly who's in front of you. I grew up, in Halifax County, Virginia. Grew up great family. Grew up with my great grandparents, grandparents. Of course, my father was incarcerated in my younger years. Grew up around still some great men, but they were my elders. And
Yeah.
what happened was my grandparents passing away. I lost that father figure and I kind of lost my footing in life, like much of us do.
Yeah.
And I just took the wrong path in life. And me doing that, it landed me in prison for armed robbery for 15 years. Not that I was a bad guy, just made bad decisions around, not
Yeah.
so good people.
Mhm.
And in turn, while I was in prison, I really, really got back to my foundation and my roots and got myself educated. I think that's one of the main reasons that people become incarcerated is because of a lack of education. And without knowledge, you make some brash and unfortunate decisions. So I got
Yeah.
myself educated. I went on to get my GED and took college courses and also a lot of trades. I took a lot of trades, a lot of and gathered a lot of information, did a lot of reading. Um, in turn, once I came home, I had fell in love with graphics communications. Learned how to run offset printing presses, and landed a really good job with Benton and Thomas, Mickey Thomas,
Mhm.
in that gang. Great individuals. Um, and I worked for them for roughly about 3 years, at least about 3 years. And I said this before, I think maybe on your podcast, but the saying of one man's trash is another man's treasure is the truth.
Yeah.
What happened was one day my manager came back and said, "Hey, Shawn, we're cleaning up everything back here." There was a piece of equipment that was in the corner. Um, never bothered me. I never bothered it. And I asked him. I said, "Oh, well, what's that over there?" He said, "It's a T-shirt making machine, right?" So I said, "T-shirt making machine." He said, "Yeah." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "It puts images on T-shirts, right?" I said, "What do you want for it?" He said, "Take it." said, take it where? He said, take it home. Hey, Lisa, before he could turn around, I was going to the car with the machine, right? So, I got home that night, and I didn't even know it was called a heat press at the time. I
Yeah.
Googled t-shirt making machines, and all of these machines came up on YouTube, and I saw the one I had, and I said, started looking at the guy. He was talking about making t-shirts and the money that he made and the connections, and I just say, hey, they gave me a gold mine. And that's when the entrepreneurial bug bit me, as we would say, right, in the entrepreneurial world. And I just started learning about business, putting myself in certain settings, and connecting myself to the right people in that particular field. And I ended up leaving Benton and Thomas in 2020 during the pandemic, and I didn't look back. I
Yeah.
didn't look back, and whatnot. So that's how we started the first business of Press for Time Tees. That's the name of that particular company,
Yeah.
um, and whatnot. And then, as we know, roughly in 2020, we started the podcast, 10 Minutes of Truth, that we were talking about a little earlier. And we started interviewing it. You know yourself, Lisa. A lot of times you'll start out one way, and
Yeah.
you end a whole nother way. It'll just shift on you, right? Because for me being incarcerated, a lot of people had heard my story, and a lot of people had not heard the story of family members of people incarcerated. So
Yeah.
my first guest on my podcast, of course, was my daughter, right? Who at the time, up from infancy, before she was even born, to 14 years old, she was coming to prison to visit me, right? And she was the first person I had on there, and we just went back and forth about what that experience was like, how she was able to, overcome her obstacles in life, having, parents that had issues, and to say she just graduated from VCU.
Yeah.
You did
I'm
a
so
great job.
excited about that.
Yeah, she did great, phenomenal job. With her life and watching that. And so, as we know, went on to interview, individuals like you and Ryan, Ted DeRiso from Mid Atlantic Broadband and Microsoft. We've, senators, lawyers, the Trents, people of that nature, and we really just started to connect and collaborate. That's one of the things that we spoke about, and we saw that we had a voice in the community, right? And I've always wanted to give back to this community, because I said, in my generation and time, I was one of the people who had messed up, and I wanted to give back. And so my give back was understanding that we did have a voice, and we knew how to connect to the people. So we started this initiative called Boots on the Ground. And with Boots on the Ground, we started bridging the gap between the youth, the community, and law enforcement, right? By reaching our community, our youth, and law enforcement with the language that they understand, and being able to connect the languages of the other, right? Because we know the community, our elders, they got a lot of great information, but somewhere along the line, it gets lost when trying to communicate it to the youth.
Yeah.
So we are that bridge of
Mm-hmm.
coming in and teaching emotional intelligence to our youth. And so something ironic happened, because uh, watching school shootings, it really made a pivot for us, right? And wanting to help and going through the school system myself. So we sat down, talked to some great individuals like Matthew McCargo, who runs recreational director in our town as well. And we learned about him writing poetry. I write poetry myself. And so what we were able to do, Lisa, was we were able to go into our school, and we started a contest called Pens Not Pistols. And
Mm-hmm.
it, like I said, it teaches emotional intelligence, and it shows our children and how to categorize and what to do with the emotions that they have, and how to put them on paper.
Yeah.
And we were able to go into the school, and we had a phenomenal experience, because what happened was the communication process that we talked about. Um, we were able to have the students communicate different. We were able to have educator to student communicate different, and we were also able to have educator to educator, because they had to create a whole system and rubric of communication with grading, poetry, and things of that nature. We had 66 people, and we just this last May gave out the plaques, certificates, and cash prizes. It was phenomenal, Lisa. It was
That is
phenomenal.
so cool. And to the people listening, I want y'all to think about that. Everything Shawn is talking about, you don't have to think about it specifically, because everything can be
Yeah.
tweaked to apply to a
Yep.
different situation. So just like with the communication that you spoke about, a lot of times I work with clients who I bridge the gap for clients between the younger generation who are digital natives and them, the older people who own a business or run it, and or like their employees or their vendors or whoever. I'm that bridge between the digital natives and the non-digital natives. So it's the same thing, except my thing is technology and business strategy, bridging that communication gap, and yours is helping kids and educators and law enforcement understand how to talk with each other. And the thing is, when everything is lost in translation, communication is impossible. So bridging that gap is
Yes.
the first thing that we have to do.
Yes. Yes. Um, to say that, because I want to talk about something that both of our prospective worlds were able to come together and help, because I do a lot of work with group homes, right? At risk
Mhm.
youth, because I know the language. I was an at risk youth, and I know what works. Uh, so one of our group homes, of course, Ryan, great guy, right? And I was sitting with Ryan one day,
So that y'all know who he's
talking.
speaking about. He's speaking about our friend Ryan Garrett. He's the dad of
Yes,
Colin Garrett, the professional race car driver that I work with. Ryan's a really good friend of mine. He was also in the book, and he's been on the show and
yes,
everything. So, yeah, so people who listen to the show regularly probably are familiar with him. But okay, sorry for
yes.
interrupting, Shawn.
No, you're fine. So I'm sitting talking with Ryan, and of course, at-risk youth, they deal with a lot of mental health issues. Something, of course, you guys combat with Colin, as far as
Yeah.
racing for veterans and combating veteran suicide. And
Mhm.
a couple of our youth had contemplated taking their lives as well. And
Mhm.
so going back and forth, throwing ideas together, came up with a great idea to come up with a logo for the car. So went, with my guys, with my youth, and we came up with a great logo. Collaborated, with them. Excuse me. Came up with a great logo, and it was last month that they actually the young man was able to have his logo placed on the car with Colin Garrett to help champion mental health awareness.
Yeah.
And I will say this, because, and this is going to go back to your book and something that phenomenal that we did because of that. Lisa, to see those young men and to see that young man's face when he knew, because we hid it from him. They didn't know it was going to
Oh,
happen.
I didn't know
And
that.
yeah, he didn't know. The whole time Ryan was like, don't tell him. Just,
Okay.
don't say anything to him, right? I said, this is perfect. So the whole time we come up with the logo, they don't know. They're just thinking they're coming up with a logo to go on a t-shirt or something, right?
Uh-huh.
And so when they saw that Colin was like, yo, we're gonna put it on the car, the morale of these children, it went through the roof, right?
Mhm.
And that's the business that we're in, because our why is that we care, right? Your
Yeah.
why is that you care. Colin, Ryan, people like us, we care. The entrepreneurs in your book, we care. And what we realize is that, going back to your particular book, when I, coming from the background that I came from and seeing my name in a book and that someone cared enough about my story to put it in a book, it did something for me. And the bug bit me even a little bit more as far as entrepreneurship. And we went on just a run of, trying to help the community, trying to get this word out, trying to get our message out. And so what we ended up doing is we actually have 2 books that are scheduled to come out now. One is the Pens Not Pistols poetry book of the 66 children that were
Awesome.
actually in the contest. So this is some of our give backs.
That's awesome. I didn't realize that, Shawn. But the stories based on you that are in the book, and for people who haven't read the book, it's short anecdotal stories pulling from people's backgrounds, and then at the end of each one, I pull out a lesson. And so some people, it's one story about them, and some it's several. The several stories about you, to me, are some of the most powerful in there. Because it would have been so easy for you to say, why even bother? Why try? And
Right.
those of us, so to the people in the audience, we all have bad days. We all have bad weeks or bad months or bad years, but it is really easy to just go, God, and just throw your hands up and feel like you're never going to make it. You're never going to get through whatever your problem is. And Shawn here is an example of, no, you can do it. When you told me that you sat down on the floor of your cell with pencil and paper and you did not know how you were going to do it, but you started a list of the things that you wanted to achieve. You want to be a good father. You want to finish. You want to get your GED. You want to learn about business, this, that, and the other. And some things you can take one thing, that step, and knock it out. And other things you have to work on for the rest of your life, like being a good father. It's not like you can work on it one day and it's done. But if you can overcome that, to me, that's so inspiring to everybody.
Absolutely. Thank you. But it's for every aspect of our lives, from being a father to being a friend to being a business colleague to being an entrepreneur. All of these things, it's a process. And that's what I had to learn about what a process looked like. Because that when I sat on that floor, I had never, all of my goals were negative, up to that point, because, that's what landed me in prison, being negative and thinking in a negative manner. So I didn't want that for myself anymore. My child at the time didn't deserve that. I'm an only child. My mother deserved to be able to talk about her son in a good light, So, and at the time, my mother really couldn't say anything about me, So when I sat down on that floor, I started what was called a process. And, when I set those goals, I made sure I could achieve them. So they were daily goals. Right. And those daily goals turned into weekly goals. Those weekly goals turned into midterm goals. And then they turned into long-term goals, of holding a job. I just recently spoke at one of the prisons. I gave a keynote because the SBA had given a class on entrepreneurship. And they had me as the keynote speaker. And that's one of the things I said. I said, if you cannot be a good worker, then you definitely cannot be a good business owner.
That's right. Because you're going to work harder than you've ever worked, right? And it never ends.
Right. You think that your 12-hour shift is hard. Wait till you become an entrepreneur.
That's right.
And you're working 24 hours.
Well, and what you said about process is so important.
Yes.
Because the daily, the weekly, the monthly, the yearly, the forever, those processes, but also what you said about having a higher purpose. You weren't just doing it for yourself. You were doing it for your daughter and your mother and the rest of your family. And I think it's so important for anybody to have a higher purpose, regardless of what we're doing. Money is not enough. Ego is not enough. Pride, whatever.
Yes.
Those things are not enough, because there's always going to be somebody who makes more money or somebody who has a bigger car, a bigger house, whatever, has more
Yeah.
employees, whatever. And when you have a purpose that's higher than those material things, I'm not saying that you shouldn't make money, but I'm
Right.
just saying that is not the ultimate goal. When you
Right.
have a higher
Right.
purpose, it helps you through those hard times. And it also helps you when you do get to that point that you used to would have thought that most people would think, oh, I've got it made. But then they sit back and they wonder why they're miserable. When you have that higher purpose, it keeps you going, even after
Yes.
you've reached the material goals that you think you wanted.
Absolutely. Absolutely. To speak to that, and also, to come back around even to money that you're talking about, because we
Mhm.
understand that money is a vehicle, to get us to one point to another.
Right.
Even with like even the pens, not pistols, what I understand when dealing with in the community is
Mhm.
that the process means that it's levels, right? Because we'll look at our youth today and we'll say, we want them to understand why violence is unacceptable, or we want them to, understand why school shootings shouldn't take place and things of this nature, right? But first we have to get them to accept the concept. That's acceptance from them first, right? And then
Right.
this is the process, because first you have to get them to accept, okay, that I do have these feelings that are uncontrollable, right? And then the
Mhm.
next phase is then understanding that there is something else that I can do, right? And then, writing. So it's a process to that, and that is what, that is why the actual program that we have, it's a year-long process, right?
Yeah.
And even going back, um to what you were saying about the vehicle of money.
Mhm.
Honestly, with this particular process, uh, you said earlier, you just jump into things because we
Mhm.
wanted to help, and we wanted to help so much. We just jumped into it, right?
Yeah.
Uh, of course, a lot of money out of your pocket, and I'm not going to say that astronomical number, but we did that, right? Because we
Mhm.
understood what needed to be done. We understood that we needed a concept, and we needed, a proof of that concept.
Yeah.
And that is why, you know, uh, one of the things that we looked at from even you guys was that you guys were one of the first crowdfunding race teams ever, and what you were able to do because of the purpose, right? You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? The purpose. When I went and studied that, and I was like, wow. Even now to GoFundMe, because we're doing a GoFundMe, and being able to catalog that and say, hey, this is what we need. This is why we need this, because this is how you help. Everybody's not going to jump up on stage like a you and I. Everybody's not
Right.
going to have a podcast like a you and I. Everybody's not willing to come off of their couch. They want to help, but you have
Mhm.
to have ways for them to help. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So that is very important, because we're building community. Colin is building community. Boots on the ground, we're building community, and this is
Mhm.
in the ways that we build community.
Yeah. Well, and with the steps that you mentioned, getting them to accept, so forth, before you even get to that very first step that you said of getting them to accept that shooting shouldn't happen and why, they have
Right.
to accept the messenger. And the
Yes.
messenger has
Yes.
to have authority with them.
Yes.
So in your
Yes.
case, I mean, if I went in there and I was like, oh, violence, blah, 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 shouldn't happen, they'd probably be looking at me like, you old white woman, you don't know anything about what we're going through, And I
Right.
mean, that's just a fact
Right.
of life. And so,
Right.
but they can look at you and see that you not only can understand where they are, that you've been where you don't want them to go.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that is so important that before anybody will accept a message from you, they have to accept you as the messenger and accept that authority. And again, that applies to whether it's something like this that's a social movement or whether it's business. If you are trying
Yep.
to the audience, you can relate what Shawn is saying to your own business if that's what you're in a for-profit, by understanding that you have to be able to talk the language and come from an angle that the people that you're trying to reach will get it, that they'll not only understand it, but that they will accept you as the messenger. So
Oh,
sorry for interrupting, but I just want to
no,
make sure
that
that
is correct.
that people understand that. 'Cause, Shawn, I know if I went in there and said the exact same things that you are saying, it wouldn't
Right.
do any good. Like, yeah, whatever. You know.
I mean, you know, being able to understand that, right? Because a lot of people don't. They
Yeah.
don't understand the messenger, right? And
Yeah.
I was watching something the other day on Instagram, and it was an older boxer was talking to a younger boxer, and he was his coach, and he was saying to him, he said, "To one that much is given, much is required," right? And we hear this before, but
Yeah.
you really understand that when a lot is required because I'm looked at differently in the
Yeah.
community. I'm looked at differently from the elders to the youth to even law enforcement. Someone
Yeah.
that, I never thought that I would have worked with law enforcement to be, I never thought that, right? And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
me understanding these components, um, and understanding the messenger side, because, if anybody goes and looks at, it's a real presentation. It's not just us coming into the, it's a lot that has to go on. There are emails back and forth with administrators that from here to Kalamazoo on points of
Mhm.
pain. What are the points of pain in your school? What are you faced with that's most difficult? So by the time we gather all of this data, so by the time we go into the school, we know exactly who we're talking to, how we have to talk to them, why we're talking to them, and the
Mhm.
manner that we have to do that. And that's how you grasp them, right?
Yeah. Yeah, because every school is different.
Every school is
Hey,
different.
certain problems are universal, but then within those universal problems, there are different reasons for them. The kids are different. They have different outlooks, different families, and everything. So that's awesome that you go in. And again, that's like working on a business project. That's
Yes.
the discovery phase for the
Yes.
entrepreneurs out there. If you're
Yes.
working on a project, Shawn is talking about the discovery phase where
Yes.
you figure out exactly what your clients' problems are and how you can help them solve it.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And education is important. Um, one of the things that we do is we do modules, we do modules with our youth,
Mhm.
such as, we take them to banks, we take them to, higher education centers, we take them to housing and how to purchase a car and how to get a job. These are
That's
things that,
amazing.
yeah,
Yeah.
these are things that we do, and that they're not teaching anywhere that all of us really need.
Well, I was going to
But
say everybody needs that. Everybody. You'd be amazed at how many kids come out of college and don't know how to do all that stuff. So,
right, right, absolutely. And so in turn, speaking about that process and the discovery phase, right? Because you have to discover what the people need. I always say you got to know the condition of a people before you can teach them. So education is extremely important. Of course, formal education. I do believe in trades, because that's how I
mm,
make my living, from trades and skills. Um, and I also believe, because I've become a peer recovery specialist, right? And now I'm
mhm.
going to be a certified peer recovery specialist because I was once on drugs myself. And once again, I understand that language, because a lot of times our youth, I just made a video today talking about, yesterday was the 4th. We did a lot of drinking. People did a lot of drinking yesterday. So
Mhm.
you have to know how to get out, exercise, get toxins out of your body, things of that nature. But you got to be educated to know how to do these things and how to meet the people. So that
Yeah.
messenger part that you were talking about, I want to be an effective messenger. I just don't want to be any type of messenger. I come in, I do a one-off, because I always tell my kids that I'm here. I always give my personal phone number out, and you would not
Yeah.
believe when I do that, the things that are text and called to us. You know what I'm saying? As far as depression, as far as wanting to take their life or someone else's life. People don't know
Yeah.
what we've been able to do with boots on the ground, because
That's
we're
so
actually on
awesome.
the ground.
Yeah.
we're not doing this from the couch. We're actually in the community, and
Mhm.
this is why we love to collaborate. We definitely need resources. We definitely need funds. We definitely need the people to connect to us in any shape, form, and fashion to help that mission along. Because our children, here and abroad in America, man, they need a fighting chance. I got babies, Lisa. I got 5 and 6 year old, and I don't want to get that fatal call one day,
This
like
is a
no other
tough
parent has to
time.
get that
This is
call.
a really tough
It
time
is.
for raising kids.
It is.
And I say that as somebody who grew up in the 60s and 70s, and people, back
Right.
then,
Right.
everything was so in such upheaval. But I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad that my kids are grown now, because
Right.
I don't know. But
And
the fact that
right.
y'all are doing this, and the reason those kids will text you and tell you those things, is because they trust you. You have
Yes.
built that trust with
Yes.
them. They know that you'll understand what they're saying, where they're coming from, and they trust you. They trust that you will
Yes.
actually help them and listen to them, not that you'll just go
Yes.
tattle on them.
Yes.
It's just amazing. I remember when we first met, and you said, that you wanted to give back to the community, something to the effect of that you wanted to give back to the community that you had hurt or that you had taken from, or whatever, something
Right.
to that effect.
Right.
And
Right.
when we first met, I guess was it 2019 or 2020?
2020. I think it was
Okay.
2020. That's when
Beginning
we
of
launched the podcast.
2020.
Yep.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. Because it was
Yep.
right after COVID started, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
beginning of 2020. And so it's been over 3 years, and
3 years.
your growth to me has been amazing, to be able to sit back and watch you and
Yeah.
see all the things that you're doing and how busy you are. And, I talked to, and oh my gosh, my brain just went blank. Your partner.
Oh yeah. I call him the wizard.
Listen, my brain just went blank, and I couldn't call his first name.
I
What's his
call I
first
call him the
name?
wizard. I call him the wizard, man. Phenomenal guy. And
Yeah.
that in dealing in business, I tell people this. I told the guys this when we went to the prison, right? I said, um, I'm smart enough, right, that the things that I don't know, I go get somebody. I don't try to
Yeah.
figure that out. You
Yeah.
understand? Because a lot of times in business, what we'll do is we'll boggle ourselves down. We're trying
Yeah.
to figure everything out, and we're not qualified to figure everything out, right?
So true. So true. But the other thing is that he and I talked several months ago. Sorry, I'm looking up something.
Okay.
Ernest.
Yeah.
Ernest. My brain just went
Right.
totally blank. So, Ernest, if you're listening, I apologize, because I know your name, but my brain is just gone because my
Trust me,
husband's been in
he
the
doesn't
hospital.
mind you leaving his name out.
But Ernest and I talked, I don't know, I guess it's been several months ago, and the spark in his voice from the things that y'all are doing. I mean, Ernest is always happy whenever he and I talk. He's always
Yeah.
a positive person, but the
Yeah.
spark in his voice now, and the excitement that he has, and and the vision that y'all have for where you want to take these programs,
Oh
is
man,
so inspiring. And it
it
just,
is.
again, it goes to show different generations partnering up together.
Yes. Yes.
We all need each other.
We do.
Young people can't just say, "Oh, I just want to work with people my age," and older people. Okay, older people, y'all shut up about complaining about the younger people, because
I
y'all need to remember
trust
what it's
me.
like in the 60s and 70s. Stop it. Y'all need
Yes.
to accept that we all need each other. And the
Yes.
more we can work together, the better everybody will be.
I mean, you said so much right there, and that's that bridging the gap as well. Because uh, me, I'm the guy that comes up with a million ideas, right?
Yeah.
Um, and of course, he is the individual that takes that, 100 ideas and say, "Hey, listen, Shawn, out of the 100, this is the one, right?
Yeah.
Let's work on this right here and hone around that,
Mhm.
right?" And because I always tell children this, I said, and I tell my children this. I said, I'm 20 something years older than you, right? But
Uh-huh.
my father is 20 something years older than me. So the knowledge that I have with me, that's where it's going to stop at, right? You
Yeah.
have to be able to connect to somebody else with more knowledge, right?
Yes.
You
Uh-huh.
have to, especially in a business setting.
Mhm.
So that's why it's a beautiful thing. He loves branding me, helping me. He taught me so much.
Yeah.
And I try to give him his flowers every single day. He's gonna kill me for talking about him now. But I definitely say this to anybody when it comes to business, especially our youth that is thinking about entrepreneurship, or if you have been in entrepreneurship for quite some time.
Mhm.
Because there are good days, as Lisa said, there are bad days, there are days, but you have to have somebody that before there's a vision, they can see your vision, right? This is
Mhm.
someone who saw the vision because he's an older gentleman, didn't know anything about podcasting. I'm like, man, podcasting is the future. We got to do this, we got to do that, and for him, once again, like you putting me in that book, I never had a man besides my grandparents that invested in me.
Yeah.
Everybody that invested in me was negative. So for him to
Mhm.
go out on a limb and spend his hard-earned money, saying, I believe in what you want to do,
Yeah.
that itself, that gave me the courage to say, okay, I have somebody who believe in me. If this guy that doesn't know me and has learned my character a little bit says he believes in me, then I know that somebody else will, that I can
Yeah.
produce something that will make somebody else as well. And that collaboration has been phenomenal, between us and getting that message out. So, I'm just blessed to have people like him in my life.
Well, and he's blessed that y'all have come together too,
Yeah,
because I know Ernest is younger than me, but he's older than you.
right.
And so, where when you get older, you get to a point you kind of a lot of people stop thinking about the future other than, oh, I just want to sit around and whatever. All they think
Right,
about retirement, and they don't really think of any goals. They
right,
just think of like easing into it. And there's
right,
nothing wrong with that, but that's why so
right.
many people end up unhappy after they're
Yes,
retired. they
yes,
think, oh my God, this is going to be so great. And then they're like,
yes,
okay, well, this sucks because you
yeah,
can't play around eating bonbons and watching TV but for so long, or
right.
playing golf, but
He
um,
actually said that. He actually
yeah.
was like,
And
man, I was
so,
getting ready for retirement, man, and
yeah.
you done
And
put me
so I
back in the
love
saddle.
that this is giving Ernest like his next act. And that's one of
Yes,
the things that I love to do is work with
yes,
people who are getting ready to retire, whether it's voluntarily or involuntarily
right.
now,
Yep.
especially because of people getting laid off. But people who think, we all kind of have this thought like this is the track I'm on and this is the way I'm going. And we get to a certain age and we forget that there are all these other tracks that we can take. And it's so
Yes.
much fun to help people discover those tracks and
Yeah.
discover what their next act can be. So that's another thing that I love about what y'all are doing is
Yes.
while y'all are helping other people, you have helped Ernest create
And he
his
is helped.
next act that
Yes.
he
And
never would have dreamed of doing.
I mean, and that's why it's such a great business partnership because, we always say, and the reason that it works is that we started with business first. We became friends later, right?
Yeah.
But it started with business, right? And we kept everything across the board, kept everything very honest, right? Um, because he knew that he had obstacles with branding me, from
Yeah.
my background. So I wanted to give him the best that I had, and every single day, which yourself, you wear 10 hats. You wear 10 different hats, right? Trying to get, something grassroots off the ground. And when you have someone that will meet you day in and day out and reach across the table sometimes and pull you across and say, hey, come on, man, because it's just like that. You know yourself in business, man. Some days you might be dragging. Some days you might
Yeah.
say, man, I'm just not feeling it, man. or I want to give up. You have to have people in your life that's positive to say, hey man, we done came too far.
It's so true.
We done came too far to give up now, right?
Yeah.
We've done too much, and we got too many people to help.
I
See,
was
it's
going to
different.
say, and
We
because you
got too many
do
people
have
to
that
help.
higher purpose, not only
We got
have
too
you
many people
come
to
too
help.
far, but we
Yep.
cannot let these people down. They need
Absolutely.
us.
Absolutely. I said this today, and I tell my children this too, to remind them.
Mhm.
My freedom, when I got my freedom, Lisa, that was for me.
Yeah.
Everything I've done beyond that point has been for other people, right?
Mhm.
Because I want our audience to understand why I do what I do. It's because that higher purpose that we've been talking about the last X amount of minutes is
Mhm.
that, and I'm not going to get very religious, but I made a pact with my creator that every day I would give all that I have to the people, right?
Mhm.
And he took me up on that. He said, Shawn, you got to give it all away. I give it back to you the next day. I give you the energy. I give you the creativity. I'll give you everything that you need, but you're going to have to give it away. So that's the pact that I have. Every single day I have to show up for the people. That's
Yeah.
the give back. You know what I'm saying? And I'm
Yeah.
very happy in doing that.
That fills my heart up.
Yeah, definitely.
And again, like you said, it doesn't have to be religious. So you do not have to believe in God, whatever, to the
Right,
audience,
right.
whatever whatever
Drives
speaks
you,
to
whatever
you
drives
is
you, right?
right. Whatever
That
speaks to
drives
you
factor.
is how you have
Yep.
to frame things. So Shawn has his way of doing it. I have my way of doing it. Everybody's different, but I think the key is that he has a great partner to work with. And whoever you find does not have to be a business partner, but
Yep.
somebody
Yep.
who is there for you and who can be honest and provide
Right.
feedback. So you have to have that, and you have to have that higher purpose, and you have to be able to hold yourself accountable. And
Yes.
for Shawn, for you, your creator is one of the ways that you hold yourself accountable.
Right.
Somebody else may have a different way.
Right. And absolutely. Because talking about creativity, that's something that I
Mhm.
was thinking about today, right? I said, okay, because once again, talking to Ryan, Ryan gave me some great knowledge, some great information a couple of weeks ago on my why. Well,
Mhm.
Shawn, and it was very blunt, and I like that type of information. It was
Yeah.
like, Shawn, yeah, I heard a little bit about your story, but I'm sure somebody else has done, come from prison and that. What's your why? And that
Uh-huh.
made me really go back and say, okay, what is my why? Why am I doing this X, Y, and Z, right? And it really gets you back to your base point of the why. Of course,
Mhm.
the why is, in a nutshell, is the why is because we care. And
Yeah.
then we move on to the how and the what. But the thing is that for yourself, it's the creativity side, right?
Mhm.
I love the creativity side, creating these programs, creating things, because our children, our youth have the ability at their fingertips to create whatever they want,
Yeah.
right? So you got to meet them with creativity. You have to meet them with, because like you said, even to me, if I would just go in and say, hey, you guys need to write poetry, they're going to say, man, get out of here. Ain't nobody writing no more. You know what I'm saying? So you got to be creative. That's why the
Yeah.
presentation has to be, we use music. That's one of the creative forms. We use music that they're listening to, right? And we
Mhm.
come in and I may say something and a piece of music comes on referencing what I'm talking about to make them think differently,
Yeah.
right? So that's
Mhm.
just something creative. Um, one of the things with the kids that we did was, you ever heard of the game Frisbee football before?
Yeah.
So a lot of people have not heard of that. Of course, we play it on the beach and things of that nature.
Mhm.
One of the group homes that we deal with, that was one of the things that we did. We took them out and we gave them Frisbee football. They hated the game at first, Lisa. Oh, they cussed me out. They was like, "You got us out there playing this stupid game. I hate this game. Why can't we just play football?" And I said, because I want you to think for a change. I want you to plan with a purpose. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? And in 2 weeks, they love the game. So
Mhm.
the creative side is what we bring to the table, right?
Yeah.
And helping with how we care, why we care, and pushing and pushing that out. And that comes, and I brought that up to talk about, the collaborative side,
Uh-huh.
because when you collaborate with other people that have similar interests, or people that may have a different interest than you, and say, hey, we're going to help with this problem, you help us with our problem,
Yeah.
right? And that collaborative form, it gives you different ideas of creativity. I didn't think of that.
Everybody brings their own spice to the pot.
Yes,
And
yes,
when you throw it all in together,
yes,
you have something totally different
yes.
than
Then
you would
hopscotch.
ever
It's a
have by
gumbo.
yourself.
It's a
And
gumbo.
what?
It's a gumbo.
Yeah, for sure. And the thing about creativity, if you're sitting there and you're just thinking your own ideas, there isn't anything for those ideas to like create a spark from or get a spark from. And when you're talking with other people, it's like a pinball machine. That ball comes, it hits something, it goes somewhere
Yes,
else, it goes and it's ding, ding, ding. And so
yes,
when you're talking with other people, you both of you, all of you are feeding off of each other's ideas, and inevitably you will come up with ideas and or solutions that you never would otherwise. But I want to say the frisbee football is a great example of, okay, if y'all had just gone out and played football, they can probably do that without even thinking because they're
yep,
so used to it.
yep,
The frisbee football forced them to think about the granular things,
yep.
forced them to think about everything that they were doing. So once again, to the audience, try to think in those terms when you're working with your clients and you're trying to help them with things. Try to figure out ways that are things that they may be uncomfortable with or they may have never heard of, that you use that as a tool to help them learn something that
Yes.
that they it would be harder for them to learn through something that they're already used to, where they're just operating by rote.
That is so pivotal. Is so key, because the reason that we played the frisbee football, like we said, was to get them thinking, because I couldn't take them in a bank with the process that they were thinking of before, and learn
Yeah,
about a credit score. I couldn't take them
yeah.
into a car lot or a housing to see what's the difference between an apartment versus purchasing a house. I
Uh-huh.
had to get them thinking differently. And that's what the
Yeah.
game did, because they had to work together. They had to figure the game out. They had to learn how to throw frisbees and run, and catch on the fly and things of that nature. So once they started saying, "Hey, this is something that I didn't know I could do, and that
Uh-huh.
I can do, and I'm actually pretty good at it. Now let's move into this realm right here and start going into the bank. Let's start
I
going to
love
see
that.
what a
If
job looks
you're
like."
catching it, you can
Yes,
catch a football, but you had to learn a
yes,
new skill
yes,
and technique
yes,
to catch the frisbee
yes,
football. So let's talk really quickly, like if you take them somewhere like the bank
yes.
and you're talking to them about opening a checking account or whatever, getting a credit card. Tell us some of the stuff that, how y'all go about that and how you help them
Um,
learn there.
well, the process, once again, because we're talking about process.
Hmm.
First you have to have an institution buy into what you're doing,
Yeah.
right? So we want to really thank Benchmark, because that's who we used here. Um, we,
That's who
we
I use also. I love
ex-
Benchmark Community Bank. Yes,
yeah,
shout out.
a great institution. They bought into what we wanted to do. They love the concept, and so that's where we started at. So we took our guys in there, set them down, and we had the loan officer, that I think is the branch manager, to speak about, go through what, because they didn't know any of this.
In Halifax or South Boston?
In South Boston,
Okay.
in Centerville,
Yeah, yeah.
I mean Riverdale, sorry.
Riverdale, yeah.
So they didn't, Lisa, they did these children first and foremost. Now you got grown-ups that don't know nothing about a credit
I
score,
know
but
it.
now we got 13, 14, 15, 16-year-olds that are learning about what a credit score is, the
Mhm.
system of it, from here to here, what's good, what's bad, what's indifferent. We're learning about, okay, why you need direct deposit, what direct deposit is, if you wanted a loan, and things of that nature, right? We go through the whole process. So the next module ties into the module that you just went to, because now we go to a job, right? Average job for a kid is going to be probably fast food. So now we're teaching them how to dress, right? We're teaching them how to go through a real mock interview. But now we're saying, hey, they're saying what? Oh, we need direct deposit. So what's direct deposit? Oh, that's when your money automatically goes into this account. So
Mhm.
now their mind is turning different about planning for a purpose, right?
Yeah.
So now the next module is, hey, not everybody's going to go to college, right? Let's go over to the higher education center. Let's see what they got over there. Oh, they got robotics over. Oh man, they got welding over here. How much they making from welding? You're $50,000 a year that you could make.
They're making more than people make when they're
They're
graduating
making more than
from
me.
college. A lot
So
of people are graduating from college.
you understand. So now their mind is shaping different, right? So now we go from that module to an auto place, right? A used car lot, right? And say, hey, this is why you need a pay stub. This is why you need direct deposit. This is why you need a checking account. But also, we're going to teach you about character and your attitude, right? Because who's the first person as a child that's probably going to have to be a co-signer? Because you just learned what co-signing is, right? Yeah, co-signing is, I said, so who's probably going to do that? Probably our parents, our mom. So if your mom can't trust you to make your bed up, you think they're going to trust you with a car? So
Amen.
now they're like, it's planning for a purpose. And so we
Yeah.
go through those modules, and it's not fluff, Lisa. What we're doing is real boots on the ground stuff, because we want the community to be better. We want our youth to be better. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? We want the officers and law enforcement to connect to our youth in a different way. We want our youth to connect to them in a different way. So, we have a strong message that we're putting out there, and it's actually working.
Shawn, I love it. I knew what y'all were doing, but I didn't know the details of it.
Right.
This is amazing, but I can tell you there are a lot of adults out here that need it.
Right.
And,
Absolutely.
but
Absolutely.
I am just so happy that y'all are doing what you're doing, that you're helping so many people, and that you're having fun while you're doing it.
Yes. Yes.
Isn't it the
We are.
best to be able to
It
help
is.
people?
It
Nothing feels
is.
better than that. I
It
don't think.
is. I said this, and this is not for everyone, because I believe that if you have a job and you want to go into entrepreneurship, that your job should power your business, right?
Yeah,
I believe that until
yeah,
it can sustain itself, right? I
right.
believe that. But me personally, now that I'm in entrepreneurship, um, I I would take a pay cut any day to work for myself, versus working for someone else, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
that's just me, because a lot of people are great being entrepreneurs in businesses, right?
Mhm.
And making that business even better. But of
Yeah.
course, this show is for entrepreneurs.
Yeah. But
So
entrepreneurs also. So
yes,
if you're not familiar with entrepreneurs, that's when you're an employee for a company, but you're thinking entrepreneurially. You're not
yes,
just doing your job by rote. You are
yes,
actually thinking, how can I make things better? What are, you're thinking independently and thinking of ideas that you can take to the owners or your superiors or
that's right,
whatever.
that's right.
Um,
A
so
great exa- a great example of that is Gmail.
yeah.
It was That was an employee that was inside of Google and said, "Man, I know it's got to be a better system for
Yeah.
us to get mail to each other." And
Mhm.
entrepreneurial system, yeah, the entrepreneurial system was they came up with Gmail. So that
Yeah.
was a great thing, and
Mhm.
that's just how
Well,
how you
that's
take
how
a
Twitter got started also. Whether you
yes,
love Twitter or you hate Twitter, they were using it internally to
yep,
message each other
yep,
for a project that they were working on for a client because they were all in different places. They needed to be able to communicate quickly. And before they knew it, they realized, ooh, this is so cool. They didn't even want to do the real
that's right,
work because
that's right,
they loved what they were doing. So they gave back the money for what they were supposed to be working on and went and developed Twitter. So that's how that started all those years ago. And,
oh man,
a lot of really cool products come out of that. And if you are an employee and you learn to think entrepreneurially, but do it within your employee role, you are an entrepreneur and you will be rewarded. Because I'll tell you what, if you're not rewarded where you're at, you still have got great experience to put on your resume to be rewarded elsewhere, or you have learned to think entrepreneurially to go do your own thing. So you don't always you can't always count on the person that you're doing it for rewarding you, but you will be rewarded.
That's right. That's right. And that goes back to that purpose you were talking about. When we're in the act of service and wanting to serve the people, that's where the pleasure and the passion is going to come from. And it doesn't go out because, like you said, if you just want to get to the tangible things, the cars and, jewelry or whatever it may be, when you get to that, then the fire may just die out with it.
Well, and like I said, there's always somebody that has more. There's never enough. And, most everybody lives to their means. The more money you make, the more money you spend. And if money were the only thing that was I'm not saying we don't need money. I'm not saying we shouldn't make money. But what I'm saying is if money is your sole focus, look around at the really wealthy people and the celebrities and stuff and look how miserable they are and how screwed up their lives are. And that's enough to teach you there's got to be more than money. You got to have you have to have all the chairs, all the legs to the stool. Can't just have that financial leg.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And as I said before, when you look at it as a vehicle, look at the money, try your best to look at it as a vehicle to get you from one point to the next point of your mission, right? Then you'll categorize it where it needs to be. It's not the be all end all to everything, but we of course we do need it, and we need it to power and fun and do what it is that we need to do.
Well, I know that y'all are doing your program here locally within Halifax County and within our region, and also I guess are you already doing it across the state or more regionally right now?
Yes, we just launched. We were on NBC last
I saw that.
And we launched it nationally. We were just in talks last week with Baltimore. With Baltimore City public school systems on seeing what that's like, putting the program there. So we're looking, of course, to be in Southside Virginia and branch this out to every school that we can afford to put it in.
Yeah. So anybody out there who wants to support a great cause, reach out to Shawn and you can be involved whether you want to be a donor or whatever. But Shawn, I'll put the link to your GoFundMe in the show notes so that if anybody wants to just donate to that, they have an easy way to do it. And I would like to talk with you though about the GoFundMe to maybe figure out some ways that you might be able to help spice that up a bit and
that'd be wonderful.
Create some levels and stuff in there that give you attainable goals within it.
Thank you.
Please, y'all, anything that you can do to support the Boots on the Ground movement is awesome. And I want y'all to join me in thanking Shawn so much for being here. And Shawn, you know how much I love you.
I do.
And I'm just so proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you.
How far you've come just since I've met you, and that's nothing compared to how far you've come in your life
together. And I'll say this in closing with you, Lisa, you were one of the people that helped change my life. Like I said, putting me in that book, and getting those coffee mugs, of me in that book, it did a lot. It boosted me to know that I could do this. And that I could go on this journey because I did a lot after that, So I tell you, thank you and always understand, and this is for our audience and as you as well, and for myself as well. Just keep going because you never know who you're touching. You never know, I have children that come up to me all the time and say, hey man, I saw that post that you put up. You don't know how much that helped me. Right. So, us, we have a mission. Right. And
you are so right. You never know who's watching you. You never know who's watching you.
You never know.
The good and the bad.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
You never know. And that's why our mission statement is very simple. No one is bigger than the mission. And we will continue to serve the community. We'll continue to serve our school system, and partner with law enforcement and everybody that we can. Thank you so much, Lisa, for inviting us on. This has been a joy as usual.
Oh, you're welcome. And I just want to thank our guest for watching. And Alvarez, I apologize if I'm saying this wrong. Says, great show. The bonding relationship is something that everyone strives for. Thank you so much. And I appreciate everybody that watched live and anybody that listens and watches and listens later. And I also wanted to say, I went to high school with Matthew McCargo.
Oh, hey, look,
Awesome man.
awesome,
So sweet,
awesome
so
guy.
nice.
Awesome
So
guy.
athletically talented, and
Awesome
so
guy.
I love that you're working with him.
He's been a pillar in our community and with our youth for generations. And
Yeah.
as my grandfather would say, in horseshoes, he gives me something to shoot at. So
That's true. All right, thanks so much, Shawn. I'll see you
Thank
later, and love you.
Love you too, babe. See you later.
See you, and I will see everybody else next week. Bye.